It's a very difficult endeavor. There are still different positions that we have to marry. This is the gist of the negotiation, and we will see how we can proceed and how we can advance.
Dr. Ali Fathollah-Nejad is an Iran analyst and author. He joins us live now from Berlin. Doctor, when these talks were briefly paused days ago, it was because Western powers condemned Iran's proposals, saying that they were demanding the removal of all sanctions, that these were not serious proposals. So the fact that everybody is now back at the table, is that an indication that Iran could be able to move on those issues?
Well, first of all, I think we're not going to see any kind of results from this round of the talks, which is the 7th round of talks in Vienna. So what Iran has been doing is to put on the table 2 draft proposals that, according to the Western diplomats, were much more hardline than Iran's position in the previous rounds. So much stronger sanctions relief on one hand, and the other fewer limitations on its nuclear program. So this can be read as a hardline Iranian stance, which very much reflects the worldview and also the view on the JCPOA from the new Iranian delegation with a more hardline government. Yet, on the other hand, we can also understand it as a high bargain. As Iran pokering quite high. So there might be some maneuvering room in the next year that Iran can probably lower expectations. But as it stands now, there is no realistic scenario for a solution.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you think of this timing that the U.S. and Israel are talking about potential targets, how to act militarily if this diplomacy does not work? Clearly, they want to put pressure on Iran, saying we're serious about taking alternate routes if you're not going to negotiate.
Well, what we've seen over especially the last year is a severe boosting of Iran's so-called nuclear escalation strategy. So Iran has been boosting its nuclear program to the extent to which that this creates concern on the Israeli side, which holds the nuclear monopoly in the Middle East and is not interested in an Iran that can become nuclear, so to speak, in a very short period of time. This is why also in the past we've seen a series of and a variety of different Israeli sabotage actions against Iranian nuclear facilities and other strategic facilities. And of course, there have been ongoing, talks between Israel and its most important ally, which is the United States. But the talk of military action, of course, is a difficult one because, at the end of the day, there is no military solution to this conflict. So we're going to see probably more of the same from the Israeli side and with tacit approval by the United States. But of course, Washington is not interested that Israel gonna, take action and bringing into war with Iran.
Yeah, and the U.S. is under quite a bit of pressure in this administration because there were so many critics, even among Democrats, of the original deal, saying that it wasn't tough enough on Iran. So if the U.S. is to re-enter a nuclear deal, and many see that as being key to the viability of any deal, it's going to want something that it views as progress. So given that, what do you think the likelihood is that this reaches a conclusion, a real deal, anytime soon?
Well, it is very difficult to predict. First of all, the critics of the JCPOA were pointing to the fact that it was only a limitation of Iran's nuclear program, but it gave the Iranians basically free hand to expand their ballistic missile program, but also their regional activities. So this was the kind of criticism that was put forward from various corners. Hence the demand that this time around one should not seek a JCPOA Obama era that is the same kind of deficit, but to seek a more comprehensive deal with the Iranians that also tackles with those two issues. Yet, as things stand now, the prospects for such a comprehensive agreement are quite slim. There's also a problem with the Iranian perspective because the Iranians have been demanding from the United States something that the US cannot possibly deliver, which is a de facto guarantee that any future administration will not back down from a new deal with Iran. So this is still a sticking point, and I think the Iranians need to change their position in this regard, because otherwise any kind of deal with the United States is going to be elusive. And the Iranians for now hope that they have some kind of economic room because they've been able to sell more oil to the Chinese over the past year. But I think that some kind of urgency gonna return by next year to Iran, and maybe we're gonna see some new, flexibility from the Iranian side.
Got it. All right, great points. Doctor, thanks so much for joining us.